by the Electoral College, said, well, you know, you're just allowing the cities to dictate everything. Well, explain to me why real estate should work or should have more voting power than people. Because that's what you're talking about. You know, when you're talking about the electoral college. But anyway, I'm 100% behind freedom of electoral rights. I think we're going down a bad road here, injecting religious views into our medical care and other aspects of our life. So that's all well and good until it's somebody else's religion dictating what I do. That's why the framers of the Constitution put it in the Constitution. They knew their European history and how bloody their history was from religion being intertwined with the government, and that's what they didn't want for this country. But other things, I mean, immigration issues, we need a good immigration policy. Of course, Republicans killed that because they wanted to run on it. So they're really not interested in it unless they can use it as a club to beat the Democrats with. But yeah.
So how about global warming?
Well, I mean, it's to me that's settled science. Okay. I mean, it's just I know how much it's changed since I was a kid. I mean, I grew up in southwestern Indiana, close to the Ohio River, and we had our own ice skates. We skate on farms. We didn't freak up anymore to even get a layer of ice on. We had 1 week this year in cold weather. 1 week, and that was it. And I mean, we used to get a ton of snow, and like I said, we used to skate on the ponds and lakes and things like that. But I mean, to me, it's just like any other science. It's measurable. It's verified. 99.99% of the scientists all agree to it. If you don't agree to it, it's because you don't understand the science. It's just because you don't want to believe it. But it's happening. We're in this cycle where we just keep, last year was the warmest year on record. We'll possibly break that this year. There's a good chance, with the winter we had. But the weather is changing everywhere. Sea levels rise. I mean, they can measure the ice caps and the glaciers and the loss that we have of that. And people say, well, it's always changed. Well, yeah, but it took thousands or millions of years for it to change. It didn't change in 100 years or 50 years like it is now. So, I mean, it's just something that it has to be addressed. Everybody drive an electric car. I don't know. I mean, we're going to have to come up with better. Right. And, a lot of your European countries are on schedule to be clean energy totally in the next 20 years. Right. But the thing is, I mean, you can go charge your car, but you can't charge them with a coal-fired power plant. And, they say, well, that stuff doesn't work. But I remember as a kid, the Ohio River Valley was one of the most polluted areas in the country because of all the power plants up and down the river and the prevailing winds, southwest and northeast. We got everybody's pollution. And the farmers, all our ground from soil test was high in sulfur. They have to add sulfur now because they put scrubbers on these power plants and took that sulfur out of the emissions. So that part of it worked. I remember I went to New York snow skiing in 1980, and the trees, I mean, you remember acid rain and all that? It literally killed these forests up there. You drive for miles and just see dead trees through there. You drive through there now, as green as it can be. It's all recovered. But because they put these scrubbers on these plants. So they know this stuff affects the environment. Like I said, it's measured, and they know it's happening. So, you can bury your head in the sand and say, well, I don't believe it. Well, that doesn't change the science. Just because you don't believe it doesn't make it not true.
Now that you've got the proof, maybe we should tell you what our concerns are and let you.
That'd be great.
So should there be a round robin on that?
One thing I think TV this morning, I know it's a big issue, is this child care.
Yeah.
How expensive it is.
Yep.
I mean, they had it on the news this morning. I know it's, parents who both working and stuff.
It's very expensive.
It's
But you have
really.
2 or 3 kids. It's the thing they want. They don't want birth control. They don't want birth control. But have all these kids, but we're not going to help you take care of them. Right. We're not going to give you the medical care they need. We're not going to give you the child care.
Of course, the poor workers are getting minimum wage.
Right.
And,
And they don't want to raise that.
no, they don't want to, so,
We need subsidized child care, we definitely do. But we need to raise the minimum wage. We need to give people a living wage. We talk about, it's like this kicker from Kansas City that's been on the news because of his little spiel at the Catholic University, about, well, women basically belong in the kitchen for raising kids.
Right.
Okay, well, you probably earn $2 or $3 million a year, you can afford to do that.
Right.
Yeah. Well, a lot of parents would. I'm on board.
so who is this person who said this?
It's the place kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. But he's the one, he gave the commencement speech at some college in Kansas, Catholic college. Yeah. Well, said his wife, and he called it a vocation. And he's sitting here in front of a bunch of women that just graduated with their degrees, telling them, you're better off in a home. You don't need to use that degree, and you don't have to worry about paying back your college loans. Just go find you a rich husband, like my wife did, and you'll be on Easy Street, and you can stay home and raise kids.
I didn't know if it was a Republican or not, because Republicans are so good at saying outrageous things about women and, shut down a rape if the woman doesn't like it.
Yeah, we had one of those in Indiana. I can't remember his name now. But, the one here in Missouri was it Aiken? That said that, and Murdoch, I think, was the guy in Indiana who basically had an off-the-wall comment like that too. It's just, you just wonder where these people are coming from.
So what's your,
Well, talking about some of that stuff, finally, after years of work, got a shelter for men and sexual violence victims and children here in Canada. First one we've ever had. We're real proud of it, but now it's got double funding and, it's thankfully we've had good support from the community, but without those funds, we may not be able to keep it open. And of course, universal health care goes in, applies to that too, because it's all education.
I toured a facility in Jackson, over just north of Florida, probably 3 weeks ago, and that's what they deal with is women that have been sexually abused, and a lot of it's family and all that, and they had a special room where they bring kids on, and one of the local businesses had decorated it, had little animals and things like that. Try to make it happen. I'm trying to remember the name of the company, but anyway, that's what they were talking about, funding, and but the police now will bring kids there instead of to a hospital or something, because they are better prepared and better equipped to deal with things like that. And they said it's just, it's only, an interviewer, somebody that's trained, to deal with these kids. You imagine the trauma that would go into that. But they have cameras in there where like, police and others can watch the interview and they can report it, if they go to court.
We're very fortunate here. We have child advocacy center in Alton. And, education of our law enforcement.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. In
small communities, everybody knows everybody, and it's a good old boys club. It's really hard for us.
Oh, I know.
Our churches in Lake Park now, we try to educate them, but
It is, I know. I grew up in a town, I didn't even grow up in town, I grew up out in the country. But the town I lived close to was 500 people. So I know what small town is. I mean, everybody ever, and that's back when we had phone lines. You pick up the lines and they was gone. Okay. So they were really in everybody's business. And you hear if you were talking to somebody, you hear a line pick up, somebody listening in.
Hear them click.
So yeah, I know what small town is.
shut the phone down. This is a private conversation.
So, yeah, I remember those days. But yeah, I mean, it all comes down, like I said, to money. But if you know, if you don't tax the people that have money, we can't put money into things like that. And it's like the drug issue. You know, we criminalize it. You know, we act like it's just a problem in the cities and all this, but that's just like with my son. You know, I mean, his mom and I were divorced, but he had it made, and he told counselors that. He said, you know, I couldn't have had a better childhood. I mean, we played sports together, we did everything together. I went to the parent-teacher conferences, the PTA meetings. You know, we did all this. We snow skied together, water skied, we rode motorcycles together. We did everything together. And so it wasn't a poverty issue. It wasn't an issue where the parents were, missing in action, so to speak, and all that. I was involved with the school in everything. And but it just.
Well, the big problem though is that so many people are making so much money out of it.
Kind of like cancer treatment, isn't it?
Follow the money.
Yeah, and healthcare in general, which is why I want private insurance.
If people weren't making all this money off their drugs.
Yeah.
So that's where
And the thing is, a lot of the drugs that are discovered or brought to market are done with government funding. There was a law back in 1980, the Buy-Dole law, that allowed these drug companies and other companies to, research. The government would provide money in research. Okay, if they discovered something and brought it to market, they got to keep the patent. But the government had a say in how it was marketed and how much money. Well, as it went farther, they just kept watering down and we got to the point where now they can use government funds to bring it out and charge for it. But I mean, I talked to people that just talked to one yesterday, fighting cancer. One treatment for him was $43,000. He took two of them. $43,000.
Here's something else. So here's something that we know of. The pharmaceutical companies, and so my kids. So there's a board. There's a board. If you need cancer treatment, or if it has to get approved for that board. The board doesn't approve it, you don't get your papers.
Right. Well, you have business people making the decision because it's a for-profit system. If it doesn't create a profit, they don't want it.
So because of this, somebody we know didn't get treatments, not to say that this would save their life,
But you don't know.
but you don't know. But it was weeks before this person was able to get treatment.
Yeah. Glad you got those measurements back.
I say when your main concern is not your health care, but whether the insurance is going to pay for it because it's going to bankrupt you, there's something wrong with the system. And we need to fix the system. That's the whole problem with for-profit health care. That's why no other country has it. I was in Aruba last December. Like I said, I make sure to ask everybody about their health care. This guy that we did an ATV tour with, I asked him about it. I said, what kind of health care you guys have here? He's always said the government, so we pay a tax. And I said, well, how much is your tax? He said, we pay 7%. I'm playing devil's advocate. So wasn't that a lot of money? Why would you, hate paying that tax? I said, oh, no. He said, we don't have to pay anything. It just happened that his wife needed heart surgery, and they couldn't do it on the island. They sent him to Colombia to have it done. They paid everything. Their flight over there, their accommodations, their surgery, flight back, medication, everything. They didn't pay one dime out of their pocket.
We had an employee that was going to be cheaper for the county to send to the Cayman Islands to get her medication than it was for us to send that through in the United States. I mean, we would say thousands.
Yeah.
It was going to save the county thousands of dollars. And the county is going to pay the trip over there to see a doctor in the Cayman Islands, get prescribed, and then come back and ship her her medicine.
gonna raise our taxes, you're gonna pay for healthcare. Yeah, you're gonna pay a tax for it, just like you pay Medicaid tax. Okay, we're gonna pay, we already pay taxes on Medicaid. But you can do away with all, Medicare would just basically be for everything. Do away with Medicaid, do away with Veterans Care, veterans wouldn't pay, they wouldn't be taxed on it, in my program. But all that stuff you can do away with. And you walk in somewhere with a card, I don't care if it's a doctor's office or a hospital, pharmacy, or, dentist's office, or, an optometrist, you hand them that card, they swipe it, you're good to go. And people wouldn't have to find insurance companies on every, how many people have had to make call after call to find an insurance company over a bill they didn't pay?
Try to make a call after call when you're sick.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't feel good. You're
Yeah.
thinking right. And the other you have to make the call. Otherwise, the bills start.
Yeah. And some guy up there in a suit is deciding whether you get that surgery or that medication or whatever, has no medical training. Get those people to put it out there.
There's a thing, I don't know, researching all of this. White bagging.
What is it?
White bagging.
White bag. I can't say that I have.
You should look that up because that's becoming a big problem.
White bag. What is it?
It's a whole pharmaceutical insurance scheme, and it kind of ties in with, what the story I was telling you about is marriage. And it's becoming such a problem, they've given it a name, and they call it like a very because you're medicine, once in a while. So, look it up,
This country has just turned to the point where greed is just taking this country over. In everything.
Well, wasn't there a time, and I can't remember the economist's name, but he felt that greed had to be part of the engine of the economy.
I know, I can't think who you're talking about.
Chicago economist. Yeah. But we monetize everything.
Yeah.
And,
Profits come at the expense of everything else. We've exported a big part of our manufacturing for profit. And then they call it a global economy. Well, it's not a global economy if Nike's taking their factories to China to get their shoes built with slave labor so they can ship back here and sell them for the same price they would if they were back here. Okay. A global economy is if, China's a company there is sending a product here and selling it, or Mercedes is sending a car here and selling it. That's a global economy. But when we have our factory, there's no textile industry left in this country. It's all in Bangladesh or Philippines or wherever they get it built, in some way for nothing. But they don't sell the product cheaper. And that was always their argument. Well, we can build a product. That was always their argument against unions. Well, we can build it cheaper. We can sell it cheaper. Right. It doesn't work that way. The profit gets passed on, to CEOs and the shareholders and all that. And when they got all this money back from the tax cuts in 2017, that was supposed to filter into the workers and, raise worker pay and all this. Well, all it did was filter into the shareholders and, stock buybacks and, increase CEO pay and all that stuff. So it doesn't work that way. And there's nothing wrong with capitalism, but it has to be regulated. It has to be well regulated for it to work right and just not take advantage of people. That's why we just, in this country, in this state, just going back to child labor. We just did away with the law, that you can work now under 16, you have to have a parental thing. But, they're against immigration. And, I'm not for unending immigration, people coming across illegally. It needs to be monitored, but people should have, by law, they have the right to apply for asylum in this country. But we've created such a roadblock to it that people do come in illegally. It's because of the way we've done it and handled it, but when you cut down on the amount of immigrants who come into the country, and you're sitting at 3.5% unemployment, you're going to get workers from somewhere. Well, I guess they're, to solve the problem, we're going to put kids to work. It's just crazy.
Hopefully they're migrating to us.
Yeah, well, that's right. But I just talked to, there's a woman down in Kent. She's been very active in Democrat politics. Dorothy Adams, I don't know if any of you know Dorothy. Anyway, she's very active and still is. She has a granddaughter-in-law that is from Mexico or one of the other, maybe Central America, one of them. Well, anyway, she just went to St. Louis about a week or two ago and finally became a citizen. She's been working on it for 10 or 11 years.
It takes a long time.
I mean, it doesn't take 10 or 11 years to vet somebody, I wouldn't think. You know, and like all these kids that were brought over here, the dreamers, that a lot of them want to send them back. Well, what are you going to send them back to do? They don't know anything but this country. And some of them served in the military.
But we want to claim that we believe in sanctity.
Yeah. But they don't even know how to speak their language. They don't know how to speak Spanish.
Before my father passed away, he's an immigrant. He came here from Holland when he was 12. And he's been here, I mean, he just recently died, he was 81. He's been here all his life. But he was afraid that they would really, I mean, even in his 70s and 80s, he was afraid they were going to end up sending him back because of all the immigration issues and, you know, and it just, and if you don't, you know, I'm not saying, like you said, I'm not saying they should all flood in here.
Yeah.
But if you don't have immigrants, there are some jobs in this country that won't get done. Right. I don't care who
they
you
can drive out through the valleys of California.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are some jobs in this country that nobody will do except for immigrants.
That's what I've told people for years. I said, they're not going to shut this down.
No.
They've got to have, well, I mean, there's certain parts of the country that that's what they depend on.
You go to South Florida around
You
Homestead.
know,
Just down in
I was
Arkansas,
Wyoming hunting,
you know,
and a state representative there had a 2-story house full of immigrants, and he was the only white guy on a 50,000-acre ranch. You know, how many of them do you think would leave?
Well, the thing is, in a lot of your meatpacking plants in Tyson and Purdue and all those people have illegal immigrants because they can pay them nothing, because they know they're not going to complain. Who are they going to go to? The authorities. So they can, that's why it was a double-edged sword for them when they hammered this immigration issue so hard, because if they shut it down, you know, they have to get people back.
Getting the benefit.
That's right. You know, and they put out all the nonsense of, well, you know, they're voting illegal. I just saw yesterday where some state passed a law, you know, or they're going through the voter registrations and, you know, kicking out all these illegal immigrants and everything. I want to see that list. I want to see how many people.
That's what I have to say. Identification.
Well, you got to have a Social Security number, number one. If you're legal, you don't have one. Same way getting government benefits. You don't get it if you don't have Social Security number.
Well, I don't know where it went, but the Missouri legislature was trying to pass a bill that saying that illegals could not vote in Missouri.
Yeah, well,
They can't vote anyway. Yeah, I know, but they were going to pass a law saying they couldn't.
When I heard that guy stand up, I wanted to stand up and say, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't know the law.
but see, that's part of the media's holding on people. They can throw that out there, they believe it, because they don't fact check it. And they hear it day after day after day. You don't hear it on your favorite station, go to your second favorite station. You hear it on that one, or your radio personality you listen to, they're all repeating the same thing. And
Same way with prayer in school.
you say a lot enough times, it becomes true.
It's hard for me not to have to say about that. I hear these people going,
oh, I know.
Head counting. Oh, yes, oh, you're right. I've done it.
That is the most ridiculous.
Well, it's not.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, thankfully you
Not very
And some
good.
of them didn't come clean.
I was gonna pull up that shows you how much
The little,
money
square or
each
whatever,
county's
so
got
that
from
you
the,
would come off the paper, that's
Yeah.
called a hanging chad.
I know Oregon
And then
County
they
got
could say
it.
what,
Yeah.
yeah, they could say.
But they're using that to replace bridges and paving.
That was, that was a big issue in Florida.
His concern was,
When the board,
I
yeah.
didn't know if it paid for it, but he had no problem voting for $2 trillion tax bill. They knew it wasn't going to pay. And now they're all up in arms because they want to
Okay,
go
we'll
back
be over in a little bit.
and
Okay.
renew the tax break.
Yeah.
And when they set it up in
Yeah.
2017, by,
We'll come.
I don't know how the laws work, but when they did it, that they couldn't make all of it permanent, they could only make part of it permanent. So the ones that made permanent were incorporated.
Okay.
And their own Speaker of the House, Ryan, said at the time, because they knew that was less popular. And the child tax credit, and all that stuff. So that's the one they made it stop. Arguing it now.
Okay, that's left.
Well, that's all right, I know you guys go ahead.
Because the commissioners must meet.
Okay,
And they're waiting.
okay.
Real quick, I have a question. What is the biggest problem Americans are facing today, in your opinion? And you've touched on a lot.
Oh, Lord.
Okay, so what is the biggest?
One biggest,
Yeah.
one I think is misinformation through the media and online. Stuff gets passed off as being true, it's not. Now we have AI generated pictures and things like that people can't tell the difference. They think it's true, it's not. But just general misinformation is passed along as being truthful, but it's not.
Not really, I don't know.
We don't have laws in place anymore that hold people or news organizations to account for spreading misinformation or outright lies, things like that. So I think it's one of the biggest problems. The other thing is the healthcare issue we have in this country. And then the wealth inequality
He's
that we
still
have
on
in this
board.
country.
He might not.
We've transferred so much wealth to the top 1%. It's left us no way to pay for our infrastructure improvements that we need. So we have to get back to a progressive tax rate where we tax. I'm not talking about taxing the mom and pop businesses and people making $50,000 a year. That's not what I'm talking about. But we have people in this country worth more than some countries. More money they can spend in a $10,000 life. And we just keep giving them more. But as you give them that money, it's less money to spend here in our communities for people that need the money for raises, minimum wage raises, just better conditions, period, better schools. I mean, we're defunding our schools now with this voucher program they just passed. And we have to get back where people are on equal footing. I mean, the kids in this town, in this county, deserve the same opportunities that kids in a suburban school in Kansas City or St. Louis. They need the same opportunity. They need well-paid teachers, so teachers want to stay there. Not every teacher wants to go live in St. Louis or Kansas City, but they have to make the money they need to make. We need to pay the teachers here so they want to stay. A lot of people would love to live in a small community and raise their kids here. But we keep losing hospitals. You drive through Kennett. I mean, you drive past their hospital. Every time I go in and out of Kennett, it's closed down. We need to be able to fund these things. And we can't do it if we constantly pass tax breaks for people that don't need it and just, corporations and everything.
Okay. You can keep eating. I got another point, sorry. I just asked for one. That was I only asked for one.
Okay.
He just gave me 3, okay?
Okay.
Well,
Thank
it's
you
hard
so
to just
much
focus
for
on
coming.
one.
I just really appreciate that.
It's good.
It's really hard to focus on just one. There's a lot of issues.
Getting your pictures.
So I don't want you to answer me because I want you to eat. But I want to voice a concern, and that is the division within the Democratic Party of between those people who are against the war in Gaza and those who want to support Israel. And I'm really concerned about that division going into
I am
November.
too.
And so I just wanted to let you know that that's a concern
Yeah, it
in
is mine
state
as well.
Missouri.
Yeah. And what I tell people is, one, Netanyahu is just another Trump.
Yeah.
He's a right wing, you know, dictator wannabe. So, but, and I don't agree with what they're doing, the mass bombing and just killing innocent civilians, because they're always going to suffer. Civilians always want to pay the price in any war. But at the same time, they need to get rid of Netanyahu. And I understand they want to get rid of them all. Israel is surrounded by countries that their stated goal is to destroy the country.
Well, it never should have been erected in the first place, but that's my own opinion. Yeah.
We still need to make a trip somewhere.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for coming.
Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate the
wow,
questions.
I just love to have somebody that's kind of on my wavelength. It's so
I know.
refreshing.
That's what I say when I go out these meetings. I say it's great to talk to people that think like I do.
Well,
Not that many
it's a
anymore.
rarity, yes.
No.
Thank you.
It's nice to talk to people who are honest.
There's somewhere in between. You may lean left or lean right, but you're still, I mean, you're not mad.
Well, I told people for years here, as this county became more and more Republican, they would ask me, are you a Democrat? And, you know, and people that know me know, I was, as a parent and as a wife, I'm more conservative than 90% of Republicans in this county.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, there's so many issues that affect all of us that need to be fixed that people really agree on. And it's just like in this state, when a progressive legislation is put up for a vote, they usually pass it. Medicaid expansion, marijuana, abortion rights, we get passed it, we can get it on the ballot like it's supposed to be. You know, those things pass. Right to work is defeated. So it's what people want. But then the propaganda gets in the way when we get down to the election. And you got to change it.
But the people support those things, but the legislature does.
That's it. But we keep putting the same legislation back. It's like Einstein said, the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. We just keep getting.
You pass something, and then the legislature tries to modify it to be what they want.
Just like right to work, they still are trying to find a way to get back and implement right to work, even though people voted down. They tried not to implement Medicaid expansion. The courts forced them to. So, you know, and I can guarantee you go out there, most of these small towns, even Republicans don't believe in this voucher program because they know what it's going to do to their local schools. But they passed it anyway because they still get elected. You have to make them pay a price. And we don't make them do that. It's like this district is the poorest, most food insecure, has the highest infant mortality rate, the highest senior poverty rate, highest child poverty rate of the entire state, and one of the 10 worst in the entire country. You know, and yet we just keep sending the same people back and wonder why things don't change or get better. You know, and then they blame the other party, but they have a super majority in Jefferson City. Have had for 20 years. You know, and you've elected Republican congressmen for 40 years. And you expect things to change instead of getting worse?
But the people being elected makes them worse.
No.
If I hesitate to say this, but looking back, Bill Emerson wasn't that bad.
No. But they keep getting more extreme. I mean, people.
Well, that's the difference, I think, now. It's extreme one way or the other,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, you have your extreme left, the AOCs and people like that, and but they will compromise.
Used to, I said the parties used to trade.
Yeah.
They would work, they would make a trade. I
Yeah.
mean, people say whatever they want, they don't matter
But
what.
now if you go across the aisle, you're a trader.
Now they don't, they
You're
don't.
a trader if you go across the aisle.
Well,
Then you try.
That's the difference.
Something real
That's the
interesting
difference in
is,
election days and days now.
read a book about Ronald Reagan and Temple Neal.
Yeah.
They cooperated,
Yeah.
Well,
they got that big tax cut through that. Well, then they raised taxes 9 times over the next 8 years because it blew such a hole in the deficit. They ended up compromising and raising it. But, and then Bush gets in there and blows it up again, and Trump gets in and blows it up again. And that's what people don't understand. They talk about, it's funny when a Democrat is in the White House, that the Republicans are all fiscal conservatism.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing how that happens, and between Trump and George W. Bush, they're responsible for 57% of the national debt, just those two presidents, in the last 20 years.
Another thing though, is they always claim that Republicans are good for business, good for the economy, but if you look at the record, you're not.
It's
Most,
like the stock market, I looked back, plumb back in, I think it was 20 years ago. I just something come up about it, and I researched it back, and it shows the stock market is always stronger than the Democratic.
well, and we have more recessions and depressions under
Yeah,
Republicans,
yeah.
but people don't believe it.
Yeah, that's right, that's exactly right. And tend to do better, like you say, economically under Democrat president. Bill Clinton had the deficit coming down. If it would stay in place what he had, we wouldn't have this. The debt was coming down, all that stuff, and then Bush gets in there and just rolls it all up again for tax breaks for the wealthy.
Well, look at Arkansas, how they thrived while Bill Clinton was there. I mean, he made that state.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know they want to regress if they stay where they're at. But as far as getting industry, I mean,
Yeah.
we've done a lot.
And that's the thing, we're not bringing any industry back in this
Nothing.
country. I mean, the Chips and Science Act is bringing these chip factories back and all that. Well, Jason Smith sits on the Ways and Means Committee. That's one of the most powerful committees in Congress. And he doesn't have enough power to, coerce some company to come in here and locate in this district. I mean, we have the river, we have railroads, we have major interstates, and we have, things here, companies that are centrally located. But why are we getting into these things? We just keep losing. We gotta change it.